I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet here with the dude. Golan is still abroad in Israel. Well, he's always abroad considering he lives in Spain. He's abroad to us, but
Spain.
but he is in Spain right now. I want to welcome everybody that's been listening via audio. Thank you. And you can find us on all the platforms, but you could also find us sometimes going live on Rumble, hopefully soon to be YouTube and other places. So welcome everybody. Mend,
Yo,
as we're doing this in repeat, since we had a weird attempt at this before, Kash Patel being in Doha, there is, I really want you to get into this and explain this, because I was having this discussion with somebody before where they were saying you can't confuse Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan and all the other places with Qatar, right? In fact, Egypt, which where the Muslim Brotherhood was started, is banned from Egypt. Okay, so when you have Kash Patel and the president refusing to designate this as a terrorist organization, the Muslim Brotherhood, what the hell is going on with Kash Patel, as the Doha or the Qataris called him today?
we talked about this on yesterday's show. There's two factions in the Middle East right now, two main factions, two opposing groups. There's the Iranians and Qatar and Turkey, and then there's Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Jordan, Lebanon, um, Syria is now in the fold, and a few other countries, Egypt. And they are opposed to this chaos because they know that the Muslim Brotherhood brings chaos to their countries, not just to our country. So they are against the Muslim Brotherhood. Therefore, they're against Qatar. Qatar's mouthpiece, which is the Al Jazeera TV network and internet or whatever, everything that Al Jazeera has, is the mouthpiece for the Muslim Brotherhood. And Egypt and Jordan and Saudi Arabia and all those countries ban the Muslim Brotherhood. They ban Al Jazeera. And there's a famous clip of the foreign minister of the UAE and the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia. Both of them have put out clips that you could find online where they talk about Qatar and they say, we want nothing to do with them. They
Right.
are sowing chaos. They're the ones that are state sponsor of terrorism, and we want nothing to do with them. And then along comes this administration, and they are sidelining the Saudis. Basically, you look at it as the sane bloc, the bloc that wants to bring sanity to the Middle East. They are pretty much sidelining them, and they are elevating Qatar. How do you square that? How do you make that make sense?
You know
I
what?
get
You
it.
know what it reminds me of. Can I just give you an example of what it was, so just for people to understand? Because you've brought this up, and we've brought this up, and many people have brought this up. It's no different in a sense than the EU funding Russia by buying their oil, and then at the same time supplying the Ukraine with weapons to then defeat them. So they're paying both sides. I mean, this is it's one of those. It just doesn't fit.
But this president is not trying to play both sides. He's the one that says he's going to bring peace. And the way you bring peace at this juncture, at this point in time, is you back Saudi Arabia. You do not back Qatar. You put a maximum pressure. That was the Trump thing. Remember term
Yeah.
one? Maximum pressure on Iran, maximum pressure on Qatar. Change your ways or else. Iran, change your ways or else. Iran's never going to change their ways. They just need to be bombed. But Qatar will change their ways. If Qatar thought that we were going to leave them, hang them out to dry, they're a tiny little country with zero defenses. Israel went in and bombed the building. They were so precise. Israel didn't even go into Qatari airspace. They did it from outside their airspace. And they did not even blow up the whole building. They only blew up the interior of that one building. It was so precise. Israel could take out any one of them, and they know it. So our current administration, who I give tons of kudos to, Trump is doing a fantastic job. They are dropping the ball when it comes to Qatar. They are dropping the ball on peace in the Middle East. You are propping up the guy who hates America. You're propping up the country that is sowing discontent here. Forget about everything else. Forget about the Middle East. If you just want to look at it from America First standpoint, Qatar is not your guy. Qatar is not our friend. And I'm not talking about Tucker Carlson's America First. I'm talking about the real America First. You want to protect our education, our institutions. Qatar is the culprit. All roads lead back to Qatar.
Listen, perfectly said. And the reason I really do like bringing this up and want to bring this up more is because I really do believe it's extremely educational. And I'm being serious when I say that, because what you're saying is actually the truth and it's a fact. So when you have somebody like Tucker Carlson come out at the Doha Festival, and yeah, I know it's called the Doha Forum, and say, this is the first time an Israeli president, an American president, whatever, with an Israeli prime minister, like didn't give them their way. And I'm like thinking to myself, I could actually give you 10 examples of when the American an American president didn't side with Israel. And you don't even have to look farther back than George. I mean, if you want to look back at this George Bush the first, when he told Israel to stand down, and there have been many other instances since, especially Biden when he did slow roll the weapons that Israel needed, and so it's so important that we get into facts for people, Mend, because people are not getting it. And I don't blame them. I don't know where you learn this stuff. I don't know how it's taught other than places like here. And there aren't many podcasts that are dedicating their time to actually getting into the weeds on a certain subject that I think is very important.
I'm not sure what Tucker was talking about the first time that Israel didn't whatever, but um, America and Israel sometimes have different goals. They have different,
Oftentimes.
oftentimes, and that's perfectly normal. You know, even in a relationship, a husband and wife, sometimes you have different objectives, and you got to, figure out how to make it work. And when it comes to foreign policy, usually the best way to do it is you figure out who has the most in line with your point of view, and they become your allies. That's what we do. It doesn't mean that you're going to be aligned on everything. But I do think when it comes to the Qatar issue, there's a clear operation going on by that country to undermine the US, undermine everything we're trying to do, undermine the Middle East, undermine our allies in the Middle East. I'm not just talking about Israel, but the UAE and Saudi Arabia as well. If you look at the UAE, it's a model. It's a model for coexistence. They've built churches, mosques, and synagogues in their country. They literally are the model for moderate Islam. If you want to look at a
I
country
know. I'm extremely
that,
glad you brought that up. That is so important.
if you want to look at a country that's doing it,
Men,
that's them.
men,
But we are not empowering them. We're not giving them props. We're not saying, yes, this is the way to go. We're leaning into the guys that will not let you build a church, will not let you build a synagogue, will not give women equal rights, that are actively funding and undermining our country. Make that make sense.
the reason that is so important for with what you just said is because when Tucker, in his braggadocious way, said that he just bought a house in Qatar and a country place that doesn't allow that, right? So you just bought a house because you're an American, right? That was his thing. I'm an American. I could buy anywhere, right? And if Ben Shapiro bought a house in Israel, I'm sure you would have the exact same sentiment in that scenario. But again, you're right. There are places in the Middle East that work. Follow that strategy. It doesn't. Doesn't have to be rocket science. And yeah, Egypt and Israel might have their problems. Egypt and Jordan might have their problems. Neighboring countries often have problems, men, but it is nowhere near the problems that all of those other places, don't even include Israel, have with Qatar, Turkey, and Iran. And that is just 100% the stone cold truth.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those two countries, Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, which one would we like to emulate? Which one would we like to have their neighbors
Yeah.
do the same? Do you want more Qatars or do you want more UAEs? Do you want more Dubais or do you want more Dohas? It's basically one is an authoritarian, Islamist, terror supporting country where Turkey as well, but it's funny, the leader of Hamas in Turkey, Ismail Hania, I believe it is, came out yesterday and said we're not going to lay down our weapons. So he's defying the ceasefire agreement from his lavish digs in Turkey. That should be a wake up call to the administration. Go do something about Turkey. Go do something about Qatar. But they're not doing it, and that's
It's
very
interesting that you say that because I want to move on a little bit, but that should be the question people always ask is how are there Hamas millionaires and billionaires living in Qatar and Turkey and all these places? Where do you think they got this money from? What was that money allotted for? Did they earn this money? No, this was money we gave them, the United Nations gave them, Qatar gave them. This is where the money comes from. Nobody ever asks that question, man, which should be one of the most obvious questions is how are you living this life of luxury? I know it had nothing to do with employment.
yeah, yeah. Well, we all know the answer to that.
What
The
it's been,
UN is a massive corrupt organization that funneled billions, billions. It's important to note that Gaza has received more per capita money than post Reconstruction Germany and Japan. So with the Marshall Plan and everything we did for those countries to help rebuild them after World War II, after they were utterly decimated, bombed into surrender, Gaza's gotten more money per capita and still has built nothing but tunnels and missiles. It's a giant cesspool. Some people just don't want to help themselves. Reminds me of the Somalis. Giant cesspool. You've been there for millennia. You've built nothing. Good for you. Clap, clap, clap. You've accomplished zero.
well said. And I want to move on. You're the one that really in the beginning has always been again about, and we brought this up yesterday about really moving at a quicker pace. We're running out of time for Trump's promises, especially to get rid of the swamp. And one of those things, one of the biggest things, obviously, is the Department of Justice. Now, you had Ron DeSantis come out yesterday from Florida, and I've had issues with Ron DeSantis. Obviously, we've had many phone calls about Ron DeSantis. One of them was never about him, about how good of a governor he is. The whole point was I was saying he wasn't ready, and I was begging him, and I had written about this for him to get, to get off to take the exit ramp. Every chance he
Get out of
could.
the presidential race.
Yeah, get out of the presidential race. Save your stuff for the next thing. Don't go against Trump too much. Just save it. So many off ramps he had, but yesterday he did what Greg Abbott did, and good for Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis declared that CARE and he designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as terrorist organizations. So that's both Florida and Texas. And here's the reality. Pam Bondi might be a nice woman. I do not know. Never met the lady. She defended Trump in one of his impeachment hearings. But Ron DeSantis is the right person to be the Attorney General of the United States. That would be an amazing shift. And I don't know if he's back in Trump's good graces, but Pam Bondi is obviously, not up for the job. We have not witnessed anything. And I think people are more than agitated and have lost more than patience at this point because we both know, again, we'd be in prison at this point. And if something's not done, we will lose the midterms.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a good take on Pam Bondi. I know that
Well, you do.
we would like to have we would like to see more done, and I don't know if it's messaging or if it's actually they're not doing anything. It's tough. I heard that Trump's going on a nationwide tour to tout the economy. I think that's a smart idea, but I also think people feel it in their pockets. So, sure, gas prices are down, but get the food prices down as well, and do this tour and absolutely get the message out. As far as Ron DeSantis go, I happen to love the guy. I think he's amazing. He's on point. If he ever does become president, he'd make it a great president. The bottom line is the reason that CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood are not currently banned is because our current president has not banned them. And I don't think you could stick that on Pam Bondi. I think that this
No,
administration
no. I've separated the issues,
Okay.
right?
All right. I just want to make sure of that.
I'm talking about two totally separate issues. I'm very extremely happy with Ron DeSantis. I think it was a very shrewd political move to label them the Muslim Brotherhood. He's also a lawyer. He's going to be out of office very soon. Why not make him the Attorney General? He has all the qualifications to do it. And this is a guy that's gone after Disney. He's gone after everybody, and he's done it extremely hard. He has a track record of going after companies and people that he believes are breaking the law. And I don't think we're seeing enough. I don't, men, you bring up the Somali thing. What the hell is being done about this? And yes, I understand that things take time, but this is one of those things that people really want to be kept abreast exactly of what's going on. People want to see people like Tim Walz and Elon Omar and all these different people under the same, they want to see them called before the House, man. That's what people want. They want prosecutions. Plain and simple. End of day, people want these Somali, whoever was involved in this stuff in Minnesota, they want to see them arrested or they want to see them prosecuted.
Yeah, I mean, they arrested a few people in Minnesota, but they need to go after everyone. I think they should arrest all the people that actually were involved in the scheme and then strip them of their temporary protected status and evict them out of the country. So it took thousands of people to sign up these false, fake autism uh, programs to get money for their kids. Then these programs would give them a little kickback and keep the money and ship it back to Somalia. And they also blew a lot of it on luxury items. Get them all. Go in there, round them all up. So from that standpoint, when you talk about the little that the Justice Department is doing, I agree with you. They're not doing enough.
Right. So but when you keep on saying bring more pressure, we're 10 months and change in, and I don't see any of the pressure that you've been calling for, that I'm the one that said have a little patience for, right? I said that, and I'm going back to agreeing with you 100%. I
Look at how
agree with you.
fast they rounded up everybody from J6,
It's
ran them
exactly right.
through, ran them through show trials, and locked them up in jail forever. They did that at lightning speed. Same thing should be done. Should apply to the Somalis and all these illegal aliens.
But how quickly did they force Jeff Sessions to recuse himself from the Mueller report, and what set in motion just 4 years of horror? And I'm warning Republicans right now. And if we do not get this, and I agree with you, it's good that Trump's going on the road as far as touting the economy. Uh, and listen, if people are hurting, people are hurting. There's nothing you could do about that. But trying to show people how you're trying to change it up. And one of the things Ben Stein constantly talks about is a lot of it has to do with the Fed. And he does need to get rid of a guy like Jerome Powell. He really is hurting the growth of the economy. But again, people want to see action because Lord knows Biden's DOJ was did a hell of a job on conservatives or anybody that dissented against them. So that's what people want to see.
Yeah. Well, look, let's hope that Pam Bondi and the Justice Department moves quicker. I think they are feeling the pressure. Um, but other than us continuing to bang on this thing day in, day out, saying more needs to be done, I don't know what else can be done.
Well, I think, but I got to be honest with you. I think of louder voices. This is something I don't know if you caught Tim Pool last night. I've never really listened to him before, but apparently, as we brought up, his studio was shot up, right? And this was after Candace Owens put him on a thumbnail, I guess, of who gained the most from Charlie Kirk's death and one of her,
That's so
mental.
funny because Candace is the one who gained the most.
Right.
She's the one that, like, she keeps on going down this rabbit hole of who had the most to gain. You, Candace, you were the one that had the most to gain. Your followers and fake followers went up like crazy.
Right, but my point is, he kept on bringing up that he was getting private messages from people saying, "Good for him for going after Candace and other people," right? And because he's screaming literally in the wilderness about what's going on, but he's getting private messages from people going, and he's like, "I don't care about your private messages. The only message I want to hear from you is saying this out loud." And this oftentimes is conservatives' biggest problem is we don't say enough. We don't say things out loud enough. So, yes, we have to keep on preaching this. We have to keep on saying this out loud because not enough people are actually doing that. It doesn't matter how many times you say it, unless the message gets there. I'll just give you this analogy. Because since I know you don't enjoy watching football or know much about football, is that a fair assessment, fair statement?
No, we like football.
Okay, so you like football. Okay, so there's one position in football where if the person's name is never called, he's doing an amazing job, and that's the cornerback. Okay, because that means that everybody is scared to throw his way, and he's exceptional at his job. Now,
Wait,
there's one what
did you say cornerback?
cornerback? Yeah,
Quarterback.
cornerback,
What's a
cornerback.
cornerback?
He's the guy that he's the guy that when the quarterback throws the ball to his own receiver, the cornerback's job is to make sure that receiver does not catch the ball. That's what a cornerback
Oh,
is.
okay. All
So
right.
there have been some amazing cornerbacks that are so good that quarterbacks never throw the ball their way, so you don't hear their name at all during a game. Then you have offensive linemen sometimes who are so bad that if you're an offensive lineman and your name keeps on getting called for holding or a false start, that's the one time you don't want somebody's name being called. So Pam Bondi, we want to hear her name being called, and other politicians, we want their names being brought up. I want to hear and see more of Pam Bondi getting stuff done. Sorry for the sports analogy, but it was one of those few things I could think of where I'm like, I want to see more going on. I want to see more prosecutions going on. I want Pam Bondi every day being in Minnesota, being in Michigan, being in places where ICE is being attacked. I want to see her being at these places, okay? I want to see Cash Patel at these sites. I want to see Bongino at these sites. That's what I think people want, because when you see that, that adds a certain amount of comfort and it makes you think they actually know what they're doing.
Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely agree. Well said, and I like the analogy. And now I know what a cornerback is.
I did ask you
I thought
before.
you were just mispronouncing it. I was like, is he
No,
trying to say quarterback?
no. The only time like it gets confusing with my New York accent is like when I say like my favorite, one of my favorite reality shows. It's not a, it's a docu reality. It's Porn Stars, Pawn Star. It's Pawn. That show about the
You
pawn
like
shop.
that show? I
The,
hated that
I
show.
absolutely love that show.
Hated it.
I
Couldn't
absolutely I love
watch it.
that show. Want to bring up that you bring up the Somali thing, and there's a school in Vermont that is flying. Decided last week to fly the Somali flag in solidarity, and again, this is like they are truly pushing how far they could take this. And what do you do? I
You can't fix stupid. And these wokesters are so stupid. That country, I mean, did everybody forget Black Hawk Down, where they were just murdering our guys? It's it's a country with a bunch of people that are inbred and they hate our way of life and they hate everything that we stand for. And they look at America as a big piggy that needs to be milked, carved up, and sent back to Somalia. So when you have these woke liberals flying flags of these other countries, I don't want any other country's flag being flown. None. Zero. America only flag.
listen. I agree with you 100%. And it's really interesting, though, because I didn't pay for the full subscription. I'm not going to pay to listen to Tim Pool Premium. But for the first 50 minutes I caught of the show, uh, he was talking about this. And he was talking about he was obviously inferring Megyn Kelly's and all these people. And I wanted to get to something that I really feel like I came to my own conclusion on about myself for us. The reason I bring up, we all knew how out of control this was going to get. Okay. We all saw the writing was on the wall of this being really out of control. And obviously, after Charlie Kirk's assassination, it got worse. And the adults in the room really needed to stand up. And I don't necessarily mean the adult podcasters, as I've often referred, and I said people like JD Vance need to stand up and say enough's enough. And there is no producer, there is no guardrail man, and these people are literally, sadly, destroying the movement that Trump has been trying to build. You have MTG going on, 60 Minutes and CNN and all these different things, and that's all people I really want. I don't want people canceled. I just want there to be one person that says enough, cut the crap out. And if JD Vance doesn't have that power, then he doesn't have the power to be the next president. Okay. And that's not it's just, you don't have it. You don't have it. If you can't control these people, because they do need to be put under, they need to be controlled right now, because the amount of violence that's coming out, or the rhetoric that's coming out from these people, and I'm not even referring to Israel right now. I'm talking about Candace going on a daily rant about TPUSA, Erica Kirk. How are they as humans allowing this to continue? I don't get it. And I think this is Tim Pool's whole thing, where he's sort of like it woke up and he's like watching friends, supposed friends, tear each other apart. Tim Pool has on that crazy Milo Yiannopoulos, who's coming out with claims that Charlie Kirk is gay, that Benny Johnson is gay. This is after Benny
Tim
Johnson.
Pool had him on,
Yeah, Tim Pool had him on. Had Milo Yiannopoulos on.
and he said that
Not
Charlie
gay.
Kirk is gay.
He said Charlie Kirk was gay. Or I'm almost positive. Yeah. And he definitely said Benny Johnson was gay. I mean, this is,
Benny Johnson looks a little gay. I
again,
say, with his coiffed hair, like reminds me
again,
of Gavin
again,
Newsom, who I'm also convinced is gay.
again, but metrosexual, neither here nor there. And this is after Benny Johnson had to file a report for a stalker that got, that they arrested. I mean, literally, a person was threatening him, Laura Lerner, Matt Walsh. This isn't a joke at this point. You know what I'm
But
saying?
Benny Johnson is part of the woke right.
I know.
He's getting attacked too.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. This isn't like, and so is Matt Walsh in a sense, or Matt Walsh is like the woke Switzerland. That's
Matt
what
Walsh, I could see him being attacked because the left hates him. Some people on the right hate him.
Yeah, he said, just thank you, David. He said he has proved that Benny Johnson is gay, like in video evidence. But again, and you know what the hardest part of the podcast was to listen to? Tim Pool has got one of his people, I think he's an Israeli Jew, he's definitely Jewish. And he was like saying, is this what people have to say for relevance? Is this how bad we've become, that this is the only thing that gets people to listen? And sadly, it is. Yeah, I wish more people would listen to you talking about what's going on in the Middle East. I wish this would become more about an informed world, not a salacious world. And I think Tim Pool finally understood this yesterday after his house studio got shot up. That Republicans, and something I've said for a long time, tend to be on the cowardly side. They really are. They do not speak up. They do not, and this goes from their pundits to the people in the House. They're not loud enough, man. And this has driven me crazy for years.
Yeah, I would say it's on both sides. We don't have enough adults standing up on both sides. The lack of leadership on the Democrat side is absolutely glaring, and now we're seeing a lack of leadership not on the Republican side so much, but it's more of this small group, the Tucker group, and the person that could speak out against it the most, besides for the president, is JD Vance. In fact, the president should be having JD rein them in. That would make sense. That would make the most sense. So,
Yeah, listen, I agree with you 100%. And I think he needs to do it for the sake of the party. And this is where a lot of people are really starting to question JD. This isn't just us. Okay, this is people. I read about this. There's a lot of discussions about this. I want to move on a little bit to. I think Trump has finally given up on the Russia-Ukraine thing. He's talking about Ukraine should have new elections to get rid of Zelensky. I think he's at wit's end with this, but I don't blame Zelensky, man. There's nothing on the table that Zelensky could take and take back to his own people. He would lose anyways. Okay, give back everything. I mean, everything that Russia has taken over, he's supposed to just lay down and say, "Yeah, you guys could have it," because Russia won't start another war to take back the rest. So, I mean, this is a huge issue. It's one that do you see any ending to this?
um, I think the Trump plan going into negotiations with this thing was the correct one. where he gave the Russians all of the off ramps, and then he used the carrot and stick, and he said, if you guys end this war, we'll make it economically profitable for you. We'll do a lot of business with you, whatever, removing of sanctions and stuff. But if you don't, we're going to arm Ukraine to the teeth, and the Europeans will pay for it, and you're going to have to suffer. And we're going to agree not to go nuclear. So we're not getting involved. We're not going to put boots on the ground. You're not going to use nuclear weapons. We're not going to use nuclear weapons. And this is where we're at. So when they say Trump is ready to walk away, I think what that means is that he's going to let the Europeans buy American weapons and let the Russians and Ukrainians fight it out. Meaning, I'm walking away from trying to end this war because clearly you guys don't want to end it. And the Russians are the ones who really don't want to end it. They want that fortress. We've talked about the fortress in the Donbass, something that they spent a decade building up. And the Russians have not been able to take it. And it's a fortified kind of entrenched thing that the Russians just can't get through. So eventually they will. The Russians have more money, more manpower, possibly more weapons. Depends what Ukraine gets. But Ukraine is very crafty. I mean, they've been really
Very.
crafty. We thought they were going to fall within 2 weeks. I was like, you got to be crazy to send them weapons because anything you send them, the Russians are just going to capture, send to China, reverse engineer, and use against us. But they've been fighting pretty well. A lot of those weapons that we sent did wind up in other conflicts. This is a fact that some of those Ukrainians are selling their weapons, the generals and the corrupt people over there. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. It's also worth noting that the Azov battalion within the Ukrainian army is a neo-Nazi party. They are neo-Nazis. They have Nazi insignia, and they are within the Ukrainian army. So when the Russian says we're going to get rid of the Nazis in Ukraine, they're not wrong, but they are wrong for the way they went about it. Launching this war was bad. They've lost over 1 million Russian fighters. They have Nigerians that they're recruiting. They have the North Koreans that they're getting. So they're just going to keep on throwing people at it. And they could throw more Russians at it. They just don't want to because they don't want to have uprisings in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. They don't need that. So this forced conscription didn't go over well. They don't want to do that, but they could supplement. They could supplement with people from other countries and just throw them into the meat grinder. So what options does Trump really have? There are no options. The only option is to do what he's doing, is say, listen, if you guys don't want to end this, that's fine. I am going to walk, meaning you're not going to have me, the guy who gave you the nicest off ramps, all of the platitudes and all of the compliments and everything else that I've been giving you, where everybody says, oh, Trump is, catering to Putin. He's giving him everything he wants. Even then, Putin did not go for it. So when Trump walks away, that just means that the Europeans are going to continue arming the Ukrainians to fight the Russians. And however long it goes, it goes. I think eventually the Ukrainians will lose. I don't think the Europeans are going to send their armies in. They're talking about doing that. But that now you're going to have a NATO conflict. Nobody wants that. So,
No.
and by the way, once they do that, once the French send their French soldiers in there and then they make it a NATO war, all those other NATO countries that are bordering Russia, now they become fair targets and Russia goes after all of them. And that's what they really fear. So all of those Baltic states that broke away, former Soviet Union states that are now sharing a border with Russia, they know that if this becomes a NATO conflict, what's to stop Russia from going at them?
Listen, you're 100% correct, and this was the whole point yesterday why Congress, and I agree with you on so much on almost all these things. I just want to say the Trump administration just revoked 85,000 visas. Okay, more than 8,000 student visas were revoked, doubling the number from the previous years. So that's good work for revoking those visas,
Whose visa did
and
they revoke?
people from all over. Do you want me to actually tell
No,
you
I was just
exactly?
curious if there was like a specific group.
No, it was okay. It ordered U.S. consular officers to apply heightened scrutiny to HB1 visa applicants and reject anyone found to have participated in censorship or attempted censorship. In addition, the administration, they were pausing. So let me see if it says actually what group. Uh, but it was obviously 8,000 of them were students.
Okay.
So we know that. And that's a good start. Some of the reasons included DUIs, assault, and theft, which account for almost half of revocations in the past year. Does that answer it? Doesn't exactly give you where, who, and where.
Yeah, but I like it. Revoking for so many levels. There's a couple of levels to revoking student visas that are so good. One is these universities are raking in tons of money from foreign students because they pay full tuition. The universities are indoctrinating our kids against America. So if you can force them to lose some money, I am all for it. Then these kids that come here, especially the Chinese, they have been caught spying for the Chinese Communist Party so many times that that's all they do here is they come here, they get our intellectual property, and then they go back to China and use it against us. So again, I'm all for it. Universities here should be for American kids first and foremost. And then if there are exceptional kids from other countries that want to come here and pay full tuition, for sure, let them in.
Okay.
It's also
Yeah.
important to note that University of Austin, Texas, University of Texas, Austin, Barry Weiss's university, is educating kids here in America to be patriots, to love America, and they are not filling them up with woke nonsense. So it's very telling the difference between what Harvard and all these other elite institutions are doing versus what this new university that basically popped up within the last 3 or 4 years, and they are doing killer work on educating our kids on what really matters and what really needs to be done. And
Well, yeah.
tuition's free.
You
How
know,
about
listen,
that? I mean, seriously, they're creating the next generation of assassins, American assassins, when it comes to academics, and tuition is free.
listen, you bring up great points. And let me correct myself 100%. Milo didn't say about Charlie Kirk. He did say that Turning Point faked his assassination on Tim Pool, but he also did say that about Benny Johnson and that he has receipts. But again, this is like I'm like looking around, man. I mean, I'm watching like Pierce Morgan do a 2-hour interview with Nick Fuentes, and I'm thinking to myself, who I showed you that statistic. Did you have a chance to read what I sent you about? Did you?
Yeah, the fake accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit? Because not everybody. My sports is a little bit better than yours, but yeah, please.
We could argue that one, but sure.
Really? About my knowledge of football? We want to argue about that? Go
No,
on.
no, 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 I'm good. I'm good. So they did an analysis. There was this group that did an analysis of a whole bunch of top people on X, and they tracked the response to their posts over a specific period of time. So each one of these accounts would post something, and they all had the same response rate. And all of a sudden, something happened to Nick Fuentes where his posts were being amplified by a crazy amount by a lot of accounts that did nothing besides amplify his content. And a lot of these accounts were based in either Pakistan, China, India, the Philippines. So these are bot farms that were specifically created to amplify his account to make it seem like he's taking off culturally, where people are just following him and tuning into what he has to say way more than Ian Carroll, who's, I believe, a crazy lefty.
Yeah, but crazy lefty. He's a crazy Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I was right. So more than
I know it's
accounts like
scary
that.
sometimes. I know you don't want to say something out of turn. I
I
get it.
wasn't sure. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure. I just wanted
you're
to make
100.
sure.
Yes, but Ian Carroll is one of
Yeah.
the worst of the worst. Ian Carroll is claims he's one of these people. I think he claims he's an historian. I mean, just he's Joe Rogan's. He's Tucker and Rogan's revisionist history guy when it comes to Churchill. I could be getting him confused with one of the other rats they have on their shows. But yes, that's who Ian Carroll is.
Yeah. So What they realized was that there's a concerted effort paid by a state. It seems like a state actor somewhere that is specifically amplifying um, uh, just this one account for this one lunatic who is a self-described neo-Nazi. Right? Isn't he a self-described neo-Nazi? He has
I mean,
veneration and
listen,
love for Hitler.
whether he is or he's, I mean, yes. I mean, let's go with the
Uses
yes.
the N-word all over the place.
Yeah.
Loves Hitler. I mean, what else do you need?
Yeah. I mean, the point is yes. And the point is these were names. Obviously, these were people that were being amplified to sow hate and to sow discord. And it worked. Here's the problem is it worked. And it worked because nobody got in there, man, and said, shut the hell up. No, nobody got in there, and that's really all I was asking for. Nobody. I'm not asking for Tucker to be canceled. I'm not asking for any of these people to be canceled. I don't believe in that. I'm just asking them for people not to platform them. I'm saying Mike. I'm saying JD Vance should have gotten together with them and said enough. Enough's enough. We have to win the midterms. And Tucker has publicly come out and said he doesn't care if Republicans win or lose. So yeah, I have to side with Steve Bannon, who actually wants Republicans to win, and I can't stand Steve Bannon. But Steve Bannon, this is a real issue, man, and it has seeped out. So yes, it has to be discussed. And Pierce Morgan interviewing Nick Fuentes it'll probably end up getting 4 million views on YouTube alone. Think about that. 4 million views for this little guy, for this neo-Nazi, for this racist Hitler
I mean, he
loving.
looks crazy. That a little midget with a mustache, and he talks like he's at
He
a
doesn't have a mustache
Chicago.
anymore. He doesn't have. He looks like an avatar. Can I be
Or
honest with
whatever.
you?
His
I
everything
didn't.
about that guy annoys the crap out of me. I don't know who could watch that guy,
I
especially
gotta
the
be.
young kids.
I gotta be honest with you, man. I maybe because he looks like an avatar in a game. I thought he was like a little video avatar. I did not think something like him was real. And I'm not saying that in a joking way. I had this discussion with you where like that's my biggest issue with AI right now is I love certain types of videos and it's like everybody's making these fake dog videos of like, whatever these and it's like, oh, it's so I missed the dodo. Remember the dodo? When they would show you these heartbreaking stories or whatever of people rescuing dogs and all that stuff. I love that. I don't want to see fake videos. I don't want to go. I know you and I differ on this. You don't care if you're listening to music that's fake, that's AI generated. I don't get that.
Yeah, it's there's so much of it out there now. Now there's a whole sub. My kids showed me this. A whole sub uh, uh, culture, a whole substream of fat people having accidents, and it's all AI. So you'll see like a super obese fat person being lifted out of a window of their apartment building by the fire department because they're too fat to be taken down through the elevator, and the crane kind of glitches and they fall. Or a fat lady getting on a ski lift and she's so heavy it tips over backwards. Like there's a whole subculture of fat people fake AI videos. It's nuts. I mean, listen, I say my kids showed me that. One of their friends told them about it, and then they asked me to look it up and show it to them because they don't have social media. Because I'm keeping my kids good. They're going to be little ninja warriors, while everybody else is going to be expert at twerking. My kids are going to be experts at science and math and physical activities.
Well said. And end us out with this one story.
Yeah, so there's a story coming out of Sudan. Pretty grim story. 114 people were killed in a hospital and a kindergarten. But don't expect to get too much attention because it has nothing to do with Israel. So none of the news media is going to cover it. None of the social justice warriors are going to be out protesting against it. You're not going to hear it anywhere besides for right here.
But listen, you're 100% correct. I mean, listen, this is like what I got. Golan made the point like once you see, you can't unsee, right? So once I noticed, and I said to you, I texted you the one story that Breitbart managed to cover about Qatar, and it was about how Bibi, how they coerced Bibi or whatever it was. It was like the most positive Qatari story they could tell. And Breitbart might cover this a little bit, but this isn't being covered. It's not. And this is like one of those most baffling things in the world is the slaughtering of children, Christians, Druze, everybody around the world. And this is a huge problem they have in Israel,
The
right?
one common theme,
It doesn't involve Israel or Jews.
or who's doing all the slaughtering in every
Yeah,
single case?
yeah.
Every single case. You got some radical Muslims that are, waging a jihad. Ooh, we're going to wage a jihad.
Listen, I agree with you 100%. Obviously, with what you're saying, they how come this is you see again? This goes to the Republicans, and this goes to like I hated when George Bush said this when he said Islam is a religion of peace. Right? It was one of the stupidest things that I mean, for a guy that said a lot of dumb things, that and he looked into Putin's eyes and saw his soul. And also the term when he came out with compassionate conservative. But when he said Islam was a religion of peace, it sort of put them into a category where people could not go after them at that point. And it was such a ridiculous thing after 9/11. Nobody was bombing mosques, okay? Nothing was happening to the Islamic population in America. Were there events that might have happened, but there was no there was no hate, nobody was firebombing these things. Okay.
It's funny that you bring that up. How many churches were burned in Canada in the last year? I think this number is in the 300s. How
No,
many
no, no, no,
mosques?
no. You're off. You're off. I've looked this up. I need to correct you. It's been in
Okay.
the last 3 years. I want to say they've had 42 churches that have been set on fire, and 39 of them were done maliciously. I will stutter for a few seconds as you Google that, but so Google away. I think it's 42.
So, and how many mosques were burned down?
Oh, I probably none. I would
None.
imagine.
None.
Yeah.
And yet, whenever
Was
they
I
were
right about the number?
what's that?
Was I right about the number?
Um, it's tough to figure out.
We know one number to be not true. No mosques were burnt down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the number we know to be
And you
one.
could play that same thing over and over again in every country. How many churches versus how many mosques? And the number for the churches will always be higher because Christianity is not preaching go out there and kill the infidels. Christianity is not preaching that the Muslims are infidels and they need to be either converted or killed, right?
Yeah,
Christianity is turn the other cheek, love thy neighbor, all of that stuff. Try to get people to find Jesus in their own way, and that's their hope. They do want people to convert and be Christians, but they're not out there with a sword saying either do it or we chop your head off. They're not slaughtering families in front of each other. Christians just don't do that. Jews don't do that. Hindus don't do that. For some reason, the media won't say it, but there's one group of people that are out there doing this consistently, and it's the radical Islamists.
well, I could think of another group that you get upset when I bring this up, but you're the one that you're the one that brings up the crime statistics of the black community in America, and this was one of those things. Fuentes was talking, and here's the problem.
But
There are
that's
a lot.
completely different.
No, no, I know.
It's different because it's not religious based. It's
No,
not
no,
like
I
they're not.
understand. I understand, but if we're not honest, we're never going to get to a solution.
Well, the thing with the black community is the Democrat Party has decimated the nuclear family in the black community, and you had above 50% dual parent households. Now it's I think in the 20%, 20%.
It's
So
like 29%, just to be almost
right, so you have
perfectly.
kids growing up without a dad, without a role model, and it's just statistically true. Kids without a dad will be way more violent, commit more crime throughout their life. And that's not necessarily a black thing. That is a lack of a father thing. And it's decimated the black community. If the black community wanted to do something about it, they would be advocating for more cohesive families, which would be great for the black community and it would be great for the country. But the Democrats don't do that. They've incentivized single motherhood by financially incentivizing them through all the different social programs that if you're a single mom, you get extra whatever benefits, care, and all that, but which could be good, but you don't make it better than a dual parent household. You don't incentivize that. Anytime you incentivize something, you're going to get more of that outcome. When we incentivized mass illegal immigration by giving everybody a $10,000 EBD card as soon as they got here with a cell phone and a hotel room, we saw 10,000 people crossing the border a day. 20
Yeah.
million people came here, of course. Why wouldn't they? I'm not even blaming the illegals. I would probably do it too if I was living in Mexico and someone was offering me 10 grand a month and a hotel room and a cell phone and, whatever I needed. Why wouldn't I do it?
Well, it was like that Simpsons episode when they decided to move to Alaska because Alaska gives away a certain amount of money to
I
everybody.
think it's
That
only $1,000 a year. When I
I
was a
know,
kid,
but
I looked into it.
I think they made it more on the Simpsons. Anyways, we're closing up shop. I just want to say something. I you know, here's the problem a lot oftentimes, and I like Laura Loomer as I've discussed on this show, but the problem is she cannot control certain other parts of her brain, and it's a real shame. I mean, it really is a shame that she really has such insightful thoughts, and she's done so much investigating into Islam and all the dangers and everything that's going on. I don't think there's more of a relentless warrior than Laura Loomer, and and then she goes into other things. But one of the things she brought up, and I don't like necessarily how she brought it up. I mean, she saw Tucker drinking, red drink or whatever in Qatar, talking about him drinking again. I don't know if that's true or not. And I was talking with somebody about this offline, and I said, when there's two types of sober, right? There's a person that doesn't drink anymore, and there's a person that's worked the 12 steps in their life to help them not drink anymore, and they've grown and they've evolved, right? And I got to tell you something. There really is something off with Tucker. There's a mental instability going on there. There's something, whether you want to call it evil. I don't just believe, Mend, it has to do with Qatar. I really don't at this point. When you just flippantly say, I'm going to buy a house in Qatar, and when you've changed your pattern of beliefs, that's not a sound brain. And if he really had friends, if JD Vance was really his friend, or those surrounding him were really his friend, Mend, they would do an intervention on him, because something is not right with this human. Okay, something is not right, and I use that word lightly. Something is off. If Mend, it's like I have bad days, and you talk me off those bad days. We've had it during the podcast, right? Where I'm going through it, and you'll call me. We'll talk about it. You call to check in on me. Call to check in on you. That's what friendship is, right? And I'm talking about on a much lower level. I'll just get angrier, right? But we have dark days. That's what friends are for. If Tucker Carlson actually had friends, they would pull him aside and say, dude, what is going on in your life? Do you need help? We are here to support you. Okay? That is just a reality. I know I might sound naive in saying that, and maybe you disagree with me on that, but my God, get this guy in a facility, because he needs to be in a facility rather quickly, man. That's all I'll say about that.
A long time ago, I read a book, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous book.
Fantastic book. One of my favorite books ever.
Yes, it's great.
Absolutely incredible. Anyway, one of the points in the book was there's a kid, he commits murder, and they're on to him. And he starts kind of unraveling because of the pressure, knowing he did something wrong. And that reminds me a lot of where Tucker's at right now, is that he took that Qatari money, he sold out his faith, he sold out his country, and he's unraveling. And you're going to see a lot more of it, where he's going to become more and more unhinged and crazy as he goes down this crazy path, because he knows what he did can't be undone, and he betrayed everything that he stands for. And when you know you've done wrong, it eats away at you on the inside. So just watch him.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I really love that you brought that up, because it's okay I've said this so many times. It's like, it's okay to say you messed up. Okay, Pete, we're a forgiving society. America is one of the most forgiving societies I think America is the most forgiving society in the world. Okay, I truly believe that we forgive people a lot quicker than almost any other country, including Qatar. Okay, you mess up in Qatar,
Off with your head.
yeah, the punishment is not you lose your podcast. It's you actually lose you don't lose your voice. You actually literally get your voice cut out. Okay, that's what happens. And I think you're right. I think he's gone down such a hole that even he in his wildest dreams never imagined possible. And this is where friends come in. So if people out there are friends with Tucker and some of these other people, help your friends out. They need help. Do an intervention on them. It is not that difficult, okay? And dude needs help. To his own admission, he's had issues with alcohol. I'm not going to claim like Laura Loomer that he's drinking again. I don't think he is. I don't know. I'm not there. But I do know he's dealing with untreated something. Whether that's untreated alcoholism or untreated mental illness, man, he's in dire straits for help. And so I pray for him. Okay? Truly.
It's important to note some of the laws in this country that he's now shilling for. So things like public displays of affection are illegal. Cohabitation, living with someone of the opposite sex without being married, illegal. Homosexuality, illegal. Alcohol consumption, illegal. Immodest dress, illegal. Potential penalties include jail time for importing pork or alcohol. So no pork too. You can't photograph buildings or people without express consent. You also cannot express anti-Islamic views. So this guy, Mr. America First, Mr. Freedom of Speech. I'm American. I can do whatever. No, you can't. The country that you now bow down to doesn't allow any of that stuff. And I think he's making a calculus in his mind where he's going, look, they paid me so much money. My kids, my grandkids, and my great grandkids are all going to be well taken care of with this money. And therefore, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what I'll do because, America will be resilient and somehow it'll bounce back. But the fatal calculation there is that we might not. Enough people, it looks that way, are getting swayed where the fabric, the culture, the identity that we have as Americans, freedom loving Americans, is now being skewed where we're becoming Islamist tolerant Americans, where we're demonizing countries like Israel, but running cover for brutal Islamist dictatorship regimes like Qatar. So no, it is not an innocent little thing where you get some money and it doesn't make a big difference. You have a giant microphone and you've been shilling for a disgusting country.
Listen, you're 100% correct. I agree with you 100%. I'm just saying, I think you could get so trapped into something that you don't see an exit out of it. I think that happens to a lot of people oftentimes in life. And what I'm simply saying is, dude, you've messed up royally. And I would encourage anybody in his sphere to say to him, you could get out at any time. This is, this is not that's just my opinion. I could be totally
what's crazy
wrong.
is that JD doesn't see it. That's where it gets concerning to me, where I'm like, how do you not see it? How do you not see that this guy is now shilling for Sharia law? He's advocating Sharia law, saying it's not that bad. It is terrible. And this guy who claims to love freedom and democracy is shilling for that.
Yeah.
That's where it gets scary. Excuse me.
Yeah. No, listen, I agree with you. And as I think Pierce Morgan just got a $30 million investment from the Doha Fund. So from the Qatari, whatever you want to call it.
He's been kissing their ass forever anyway. I think, you know how they call him Tucker Carlson?
Yeah.
I think we should call him Qatar Carlson.
It's interesting you say that because every time, and we do have to end, every time I see the name Qatar, I sort of, at this point,
Tucker, right?
I see Tucker.
So,
I mean, it's like I see dead people. Every time I see Qatar, I see Tucker.
yeah.
I mean, it's not even, I'm not saying that in a joking way at all. I have to double check the way I'm reading it, and I'm not dyslexic. and I have to double check myself. And once you see it, you can't get it out of your mind. Golan is sorely missed. And he's the one that said that about Breitbart. And just so people know, and I wrote this down in a post, but I just want people to understand this. I loved Andrew Breitbart, who started Breitbart. I'll just tell you one quick story. When I first met Andrew, it was at a bar. I wasn't drinking in the Val, and I saw his Andrew Breitbart man. And I was like, this is when I was dating the girl that you said, how did you get her, and why do you have a, when you constantly
Oh,
remind me of why I.
for the record, Judah did good there. He showed up at my wedding with a super hot babe. They were dating. Everybody was impressed. They're like, how'd that guy get that girl?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I was at a bar and I see Andrew Breitbart. He's sitting alone, I think a wagon wheel or something like that in the Val. And I walked over to him and I said, no, I'm a conservative. I'm friends with Ann. And we sat down and we spoke for about 30 minutes. He gave me his phone number. And by all accounts, he used to let Greg Gutfeld sleep on his couch when he was starting out. That was Andrew Breitbart. That was Breitbart. Breitbart would never have gone to Qatar. And this isn't the Breitbart. And I read it sometimes and I like some of their writers and I wish they would get back to the basics of who they are. But sadly, in the business, there's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in ad revenue because companies oftentimes don't want to be associated with people like Breitbart. So Breitbart has to go and get money from donors. And those donors are oftentimes now extremely nefarious characters. So I don't want people to think I'm dumping on Breitbart. I loved Andrew Breitbart. I wish they would get back to their basics. So on that note, I want to thank you guys in the rants, and for the people that are listening on audio. What I'm talking about is we are on Rumble now, live pretty much every day. We have people that are jokingly and sometimes being offering great advice and great suggestions in our Rumble rants, and you could join them. Just go to rumble.com and subscribe to the Daily Cheat Sheet. Follow us and listen. You can find us everywhere, though, at thedailycheatsheet.com. Once again, men brought the heat. I didn't get that message on YouTube that I should get rid of you today from that one fan, and so we're still keeping the men. And everywhere you can find us at thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.